Looks like we're all here, so we might as well get started. I'm calling the meeting the October 14th, 2025 meeting of the Wakefield Conservation Commission to order. And I guess first thing is a roll call. Eleanor?
Here.
Jennifer?
Yeah.
And I am here, Paul Wendelgast, chair. So our agenda tonight is a single item, which is to work on the, consider the public comments and edit the draft Wakefield Wetlands bylaw. So I think that's where we'll proceed.
It looks like we may have a member of the public. Do we want to open it up to comments, or how did you want to proceed?
Well, we didn't actually indicate an opportunity for comments, but I think we're open to that. So Paul DeFranza, if you want to speak, let us know.
No, I don't need, I don't need to speak. Thank you. I just wanted to listen in.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay. Our objective tonight is to move through proposed suggested changes to the bylaw. Oh, goodness. Judy, are you handling letting people in?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Thank you. I didn't see it quite quickly enough. They also show up on my screen, so. How do you, any preference on the best way to proceed? Shall we put up the text and edit on the screen, or do you have specific matters you'd like to consider?
I sent you guys updated language, kind of based on some of the preliminary, feedback we'd gotten for Bill, like including exemptions. And then I also so I sent that to you guys like two weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a clean draft and a marked up one. And I thought we could go through it because we're meeting with Bill on Friday. We can at least make sure we're comfortable with the exemption language, or at least the direction. I guess I'm thinking about this like a, software development. You get consensus on what you want to do, and then you kind of roll it out to outside groups like Bill and incorporate their feedback and improve it that way. But it's hard if we don't get consensus first in terms of the direction we might want to go on some of this. And of course, some of it might be subject to his input, but it certainly is easier if we have sort of a baseline, to work with.
Okay, that's fine with me. Yeah, you sent that out on the 30th.
Yep.
And actually it's been sitting open on my machine for a while.
So do you want me to, I don't know, Jennifer, did you have any comments, or how did you want to proceed?
I haven't spent a lot of time or looking at kind of the precise language in the bylaw. I guess I was thinking that kind of key questions are, what do we want to protect and how much buffer zone should different resource areas get? And that will get into how do you distinguish between different resource areas, vernal pools, isolated wetlands.
We're not going to embark on trying to redefine vernal pools or isolated vegetated wetlands.
I think we have talked about different ways of, identify vernal pools. The current draft has a presumption of a vernal pool habitat, which basically assumes that any any isolated wetland is a vernal pool.
So I had proposed language in there to kind of address that and still ensure it meets some level of performance standards, you know, that you couldn't just assume, like you did have to follow state guidelines in terms of, you know, even if you didn't get it certified, you had to meet the state criteria. So I tried to incorporate that language. So do we want to go through kind of piece by piece and see if that's sort of a somewhat addresses some of it?
I think we need to go through piece by piece. At this point, we could spin our wheels by discussing philosophically
Yeah,
been for a long time. I think we're better off focusing on putting real language in front of us, deciding if it meets our needs, and if it doesn't, then editing it to address what we think our needs are. I also wanted to ask, Friday at noon, does that work for both of you? I mean, I can arrange my schedule to be there, but you know, you guys have real jobs.
I can do it this Friday.
Okay,
I can't do it next Friday. So,
all right, then we're on for this Friday.
yeah. And then I had sent an email earlier asking for examples of what, you know, Bill was looking for.
Right.
So hopefully, Ethan, you can get that. You can work with Bill to get that to us. Do you want me to share my screen of the draft?
Yeah, let's do that because I
The-
think we need
okay.
to, I mean, I have your draft. I think I have what you sent out appeared to be two copies of the same marked up draft.
Right.
There was nothing
Oh,
clean about either one.
oh, there wasn't? One was a
Yeah,
clean version. Let me see. That's weird.
yeah, I got two drafts. Both of them have comments attached. Both of
Okay.
them have lots of yellow and red.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay, let me see.
Let's
Hang
just
on.
work from either one. It doesn't really much matter.
Okay, let's see. Um, I guess I did do that. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay. Oops, sorry, did it? Is
Yep,
it sharing that window? Nope,
it's
it's sharing the
starting to
wrong
share.
window.
No, well, you got the wrong window, but
Hang on, it just did that. Give me a stop.
just change to which window you're sharing.
Yep. Nope, it's a new mouse pad I'm getting used to. Screen
Always
two.
the annoyance. Right back.
Okay. So the first section was just slight rephrasing to line up with the Wetlands Protection Act, you know, protection of. You guys had issues with that. So I just reordered it so it would be Wetlands Protection Act and then the,
You need to zoom this a little larger though, Eleanor.
okay. Better.
That's fine.
And then I just put an asterisk for now so we could just know readily what was the additional interests. Is that okay or controversial?
I think those actually both work fine.
Okay,
Jennifer?
okay. Then this was the supposed to be like a preamble, so this could be fine-tuned, but I copied some, you know, language from the Linfield bylaw
Mm-hmm.
just to better clarify the purpose and the extent.
Google
And
wants you to correct the grammar in that last sentence of that section 1. Should be are
last
silent.
are silent. Hang on a second. Oh,
Bylaw and are.
yeah.
Otherwise,
And I'm not sure we need this because we have it at the end. I just wondered if it made sense to have it here.
I would not say it is presumed. I would say the rules and regulations of the Wetland Protection Act apply. Delete the it is presumed that.
Perfect.
Suggestion.
Okay. Um, I think what we had gotten from Bill was to sort of distinguish each of the resource areas. So like the first is any perennial stream, which we corrected, which has a distance out to 200 feet. Any freshwater wetland. So this would be everything but the isolated wetlands. Then you have isolated wetlands. And then I think to Jennifer's point, we have to just decide where our threshold is going to be here. And then the last one is vernal pool.
The only thing I would question is, are there any intermittent streams that we would want to protect?
So that's something I've been thinking about since the last meeting. My impression is that, development has caused some intermittent streams to cause flooding in parts of Wakefield.
Mhm. This is. Do you want me to add some? I can just add a comment at the top. Add.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that intermittent streams might be their own category that have like maybe just a narrow protection. You know, not like a riverfront.
Mhm.
What would you suggest, Jennifer?
I haven't really been able to kind of look at what other places do that have
Okay.
protections for intermittent streams. I think Sudbury does, but I don't remember the exact buffer. But I mean, I would think that something like maybe a 25-foot buffer zone for review, and perhaps even a smaller no disturb area, you know, basically just something that protects not just the lower bank, but the upper bank and some vegetation around it. And one reason that, you know, I was thinking about it is I went and looked at that area of Mill River that was near the last site visit. One side of the, river, I realize it's a river, not a intermittent stream, but you know, one side that had been developed and covered with lawn, the bank was collapsed. And the other side that wasn't developed had its natural bank. And,
Mhm.
you know, trying to prevent something like that happening to the intermittent streams and also giving them just a little bit of room to expand, you know.
Right. And we have seen intermittent streams that are protected. I mean, but one that you and I did the site visit on Clyde Court is essentially an intermittent stream and a wet area that it feeds. And it seems to me it's already got some degree of protection from somewhere. So I would think we'd want to maintain something like that.
Okay, so we look into that. I think Bill mentioned that some of that was covered in the stormwater standards.
Okay.
And that's probably where we, on this one, get clarification from Bill on, I don't-
Specifically what the
Yeah.
stormwater standards say.
yeah, and he was mentioning the Wakefield stormwater standards.
You have to admit, I've never looked at them.
No, but that area was surprising to me again, because Clyde Court, because you don't see it on a map, but it's wet and you know, that area does flood.
Why there's the constructed wetland pond,
Yeah,
rain garden.
right.
Okay.
So I think the rest of that was fine.
Yeah.
Definitions we went through. I know we removed things like bank, date of issuance, but person, these are all in, like, I haven't found a wetland, I mean, a bylaw where those have been removed. So maybe we just think
But
about that.
we specifically say right at the beginning that where we're silent, the
Wetlands
Act
protection. So maybe
applies.
we're fine. Okay.
And if our intent is to use its definitions of bank, date of issuance, and person, I strongly urge that we
Keep it short.
shut up on creating our own definitions, because we'll miss something and then
Mhm.
we'll end up with conflicts between. So I would prefer we stay silent if we're going to use WPA language
Mhm.
as our basis. It looks to me like vernal pool is the next one we really have to discuss.
Oh, we did isolated vegetated wetland. So I think that,
Okay, sorry.
so this was some language. I think Bill had made the comment on, the 1,000 square feet. It might be hard to measure, or you'd run into issues where you have to get permission to go onto somebody else's property to measure it. And so
Okay.
a suggestion was to do away with that and just specify that it's naturally occurring. I think what he said in conversation to me was, if you, and we can get to it with the exemptions, but if you can kind of eliminate the, in a lawn type thing, then it's a lot easier.
Yeah, I think the challenge is we don't want to be regulating, 100 square foot puddle.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's language that exists about lawns and that I think we can find and plug in.
Okay.
Mhm.
If you could circulate something, Jennifer, that would be great. But
Yeah,
I think that makes sense.
and then they also, I've seen definitions that include like facultative wetland species, have a ratio. So then that kind of rules out the lawn. Do you know what I mean, Paul?
Yeah, okay.
So,
Obligate or facultative?
yeah, sorry, obligate. Yeah.
Oh, so you want to see obligate, not facultative.
Like came across, and this is where probably Jennifer did some good research, but I definitely tried to bookmark some of those along the way.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
and
think,
I'm wondering,
Uh-huh.
do we, in terms of the protections we want to have, do we need to distinguish between an isolated vegetated wetland and, let's say, isolated land subject to flooding? Because you could make a case for having a similar buffer around both of those. For the isolated vegetated, it would be for, functions like, water quality, groundwater quality, habitat, flooding protection. And then for the ILSF, it would be the same, but perhaps just a bit less habitat, but still kind of the flooding.
I would think you would do a buffer around an isolated wetland, but maybe not the land subject to flooding. Because it is a resource area already.
Some places, and it's not, I couldn't tell you like what percent,
Yeah.
but some places do put a 24/7 buffer around it as
Okay.
sort of a climate resilience, measure.
Mhm.
And I know we want to try to distinguish vernal pools from these other areas, but I think a lot of isolated land subject to flooding does actually function as a vernal pool.
Okay. Okay.
Vernal pools aren't always vegetated, and like a classic vernal pool is not.
Yeah, do we have example, like, I guess we'd have to talk through examples like that. Oh, isolated land subject to flooding.
well,
Yeah, that's all the pool, that's,
is
yeah, you're
isolated
right.
land subject to flooding covered under WPA?
It is, if it's over, Ethan, do you know off the top of your head? Is it 5,000?
I don't know the size, but it is if it's a larger area.
If you have the regs open, can you just confirm that
Sure.
if it's 5,000?
I mean, one way to deal with it would be to use the WPA's definition, but bring
Yep.
the size down
Yep.
to some kind of reasonable threshold. I mean, 1,000 square feet didn't sound all that out of line. That's
Right.
20 by 50 feet, roughly. Rectangle,
Mhm.
if you look at a rectangle.
Hmm.
Which
So you
is,
would want to, you
you
both
know,
would,
that seems like a reasonable scale. I mean, we could bring it down to 500 square feet if we really felt that it was important to get down to a more granular scale. Jennifer, you circulated that spreadsheet of vernal pools this week, and
Yep.
those are a combination of certified and potential, which means they've been identified by someone as a possible certifiable vernal pool. How big are they typically? Do you have any
How
idea?
big are the ones? I think they have to be at least, I think the imaging doesn't really work below 60 square feet. So they're all
60 square
60,
feet.
they're all,
Okay,
anything that's been tagged is at least 60 square feet.
60. Okay. I was thinking, that might be a place to put like 100 square foot minimum threshold for
vernal pool.
IBW. IBW. Vernal pools, given their rather essential function, I wouldn't necessarily put a minimum scale on them.
Hmm. Sorry, so I undid the 1,000 square feet. Do you want to
Well,
keep it in, or here, I'll keep it out for now. We can always put it back.
For the isolated land subject to flooding, they say a 1/4 acre foot of at least 6 inches. So that comes out to about 5,000 square feet.
okay.
Foot of 6 inches.
1/4 acre foot, you said?
Oh, I thought that was like 10,000 feet, maybe.
A 1/4 acre feet is 10,000, but then with the depth of 6 inches, that brings it to like 5,000, I guess, cubic feet.
Okay, 5,000 cubic feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
1/4 acre foot.
That's a big area.
Yeah, that is. On the other hand, 100 square feet, except for vernal pools, seems like a very small area to me.
I have a presentation I can send to you guys that a civil engineer sent me. I think it was on isolated land subject to, or it was land subject to flooding.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's where, maybe to your point, Jennifer, the intermittent streams come into play, because they are fed in some way, whether it's groundwater or surface water, right? But there's not like an obvious year-round connection.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, water can flow over like into it, but it's not something that, at least from what I've read, would not be necessarily evident in kind of topography.
On a map.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that one was going to be our hardest, like probably our, the one we'll have to work on the hardest. The rest of these rare species. Okay. And then vernal pool habitat. Um, let me move down. Sorry, can you see that? So the vernal pool habitat. So this is where the Wetlands Protection Act defines the vernal pool habitat as the vernal pool and the 100 feet area surrounding it. So
it's 100-foot radius out from the edge of the vernal pool depression.
correct.
That seems like actually a fair approach.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to delineate the vernal
Just
pool.
Delineate the vernal pool and then delineate 100-foot buffer
Yeah,
on it, but
I
as an
see,
alternative to trying to go out and define a top of watershed for each vernal pool, I think that makes a whole lot more sense.
yeah, because you only get one crack at it when the applicant comes, and it may not be when there's
Right.
water in it. So,
Mhm.
what were you gonna say, Jennifer?
I've seen language, and I think it might have been in Sudbury about, you know, the commission essentially will consider how much of the 100, foot portion, and I assume it means kind of like radially, it needs to
Mhm.
be protected to protect the functions of the vernal pool.
Mhm.
And I will say a lot of looking at the vernal pools in Wakefield, or the potential vernal pools in Wakefield on a map, a majority of them don't have kind of 360-degree buffer. I mean,
Mhm.
a few do, like in the town forest and JJ Round, but a lot of them only have maybe like 180 kind of
Mhm.
surrounding,
Only happen to be what? I'm sorry.
sort of like maybe like 180 degrees around it
Okay. And the
available
rest of
and
it is already developed or?
Developed. Yeah.
developed, or sometimes it's even down to like, I mean, sometimes it's almost non-existent, like at the vocational school, but anything from like practically nothing left to 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 180, so um
So this is where I feel like the exemptions of sort of exempting existing structures and uses would, you know, fall under, like you could get around this. Like we're not going to have somebody jackhammer their driveway because it was, you know,
Bordering a vernal pool.
yeah, like we can't undo the damage that was done before, but
Mhm.
we're just setting a
Try to
higher
prevent
bar.
future damage.
Yes, to prevent future damage. So I think that's where the strategic, the exemptions would come in.
Mhm.
But I don't know if in the definition we have to go there.
I think we've got a good definition here. If we're comfortable with the area that we're essentially calling, we're not calling, but essentially treating as buffer.
And then can I go ahead and like accept some of these changes?
hold on one
Although,
second.
Why did you delete language?
I think it was confusing, and I think we thought it could go into like exemptions. I think we wanted to get a good definition that sort of lined up with the Wetlands Protection Act definition. So we could say, I mean, we could say the vernal pool habitat does not include existing lawns, gardens, landscaped areas, or driveways or something, and put that at the end just to make it easier to.
I think it's important to have that show up here somewhere
Mhm.
early on so that we don't end up with people getting all excited about this definition.
Which maybe we do. Which holds, I would probably put mm, mm, mm. Give me 1 second.
Well, I guess I'd
Say
suggest,
vernal pool habitat shall not include existing lawns, gardens, right?
landscaped areas or driveways. Fine.
Yeah, because it just was too hard to,
Okay. Yeah, I think that works.
are you okay with that, Jennifer? And then I'll just hit accept or,
Take another look.
or I don't have to hit accept on this. We can just try to do. I can also do this. No markup if it makes it easier to read. Is
That
that
would
easy?
be, that you just did that for the whole document, Eleanor.
Yeah, that's the only way you can do it.
Okay.
I'll go back to show markup.
I think I'd rather keep the markup there.
Okay.
Let's just keep moving through. But I think we're in agreement. I think we're in agreement down through the definitions.
Well, so with the vernal pool habitat provides essential breeding and rearing habitat functions for amphibians, reptiles, and other vernal pool community species, regardless of whether certified. But that suggests that there has to be some evidence provided.
Yes, so that's in
Seems to
the
me-
vernal pool section. I didn't put it in the definition section.
Oh, okay, like the type of evidence that would.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, yes, we do need to have that, to have there be some kind of evidence. We can't insist on it being a vernal pool.
oh, or maybe we don't. Okay, then here's this phrase kind of again. Maybe I don't need it in the,
Which,
we're saying this B, this was in our bylaw, except as otherwise provided in this bylaw, regulations, the definitions of and terms and procedures in this bylaw shall be is set forth in Wetlands Protection Act.
where else had you put it? Further forward?
Well, I had something, at the beginning in the preamble,
Then, yeah, I would say take that out and just leave this. Yeah, I'd agree.
although, I don't, yeah.
It's that last sentence of yeah, it doesn't need to be there. You're right.
Okay,
Okay.
exemptions. And it's funny, I found a lot of towns that had the model like ours without some of these exemptions. They were the boilerplate we had. So the emergency projects,
Mhm.
which didn't change. This I labeled, we had before, I just called it minor projects exemption, because that's
Okay.
kind of what it is. And then at Bill Renault's request, added maintaining existing sewer and drainage, maintaining, and then roads and sidewalks. So this was a comment Bill had that a lot of the work he does has like a limited project status if it's not changing the footprint.
That makes sense.
I don't know if there's any.
Yeah, is there a reason that the sewer and drainage and the streets and sidewalks doesn't say repairing or replacing? Or replacing?
Oh, instead of maintaining, you want to use the word repair and replace?
No, I'm just wondering why it's different, because we have the first bullet is maintain, repair.
Yeah, I would
replace.
agree with using all three word or terms, maintaining, repairing, or replacing for
Oh, I
sewer
see. Got it.
and roads
That's a good suggestion. Okay. But not substantially changing or enlarging.
Yeah, fine.
Actually, you know what we could do is just carry this thing at the top and then bullet out instead of repeating, maintaining, repairing, replacing, maintaining, repeating, replacing.
Well, you could do it, yes, involved in maintaining, repairing, or replacing, but not substantially changing or enlarging, bullet one, an existing.
Yeah.
2, existing sewer and drainage infrastructure. 3, and so forth. Yes,
Yeah.
existing roads, sidewalks.
Ugh. Darn it. This is,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah,
I hate this
here's the
thing.
problem with bulleting. It's
I know.
an annoying
It's
feature of,
super annoying.
Yep,
Okay, I'm gonna undo that, but we can,
you know what you need to do.
let's see, hang on.
Actually, yeah, you got it.
No, but I'll just fix it. I'll make a note
Okay.
to group it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm. Um,
What is this limited project status here?
oh, I think this was just a comment Bill had made. I'll take it out. It was just an example he gave that he usually applies for, but to me, it wouldn't fall under the bylaw. It would, if he was applying.
If it's something created by the WPA, then he'd get it
Yeah.
under the WPA.
Yeah, I think. Ethan, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it might just be best to keep it regulated by the WPA. Might be a
Yeah.
little too complicated adding it here.
Yeah, no, I wasn't planning to it. It was an example, like it's what he'd call it. Like these things that we say are maintaining, repairing, replacing are typically limited
Those are
status
what
projects
get limited project.
that he, yes,
Yeah.
put permits under the Wetlands Protection Act. And we're just saying, just do your regular process. We're exempting the bylaw from that.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, so I'll get rid of that. Okay. This one, C, this was what I wanted to get your thoughts on. So this, and maybe existing structures or work, maybe work's not the best word, maybe uses. But any, so this would be like how you exempt an existing home. You know, if they don't meet the new performance standards, you'd say, okay, any existing structure or use of such structure that was lawful at the date of the bylaw may continue even if it doesn't conform to the bylaw. Any work that was done previously in the 25-foot of the resource area may be repaired, maintained, but no event made larger or closer to the resource area. Any non-conforming structure, although that's not a great word, which is destroyed may be rebuilt in the same location, but no larger than the original overall square footage. So that came from Melrose bylaw.
I think that's a fair result.
I just have a question, in no
Yeah.
event made larger, but you'd still be able to apply for a waiver. So I think saying in no event makes it seem like it's prohibitive. Maybe add instead without obtaining a waiver or without applying for a waiver.
Let's see. Without applying for a waiver, like at the end.
Right.
Okay.
I'm reluctant.
To put that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
But
could
why
just,
would you say under no circumstance when the bylaw allows waivers? How can you make a hard stop on that?
Well, I do think I mean, I don't think people should be building closer to a wetland. At this
Right,
day
but
and
that's why
age, like the insurance company won't like it.
Right, but that's
Um,
why there's a waiver provision.
the
What-
size, I'd be okay. You know what I mean? Like this going bigger, but if you went further back, I'd be fine with that. Um,
What if it just said not made larger and that just makes it sound, it's a little bit silent on the waiver, but the waiver would apply? Or-
Right, but I
Mhm.
think that makes it worse if if you're not explicit about you can, take your chances and apply for a waiver. I think that would be a sticking point for people, that you're putting a prohibition against it.
I think we do want to prevent people from building closer to
Right, but if
a
they
wetland.
right, but say the buffer is completely denuded and they're proposing mitigation to enhance it in, a broader area, then why wouldn't you allow a waiver? I think someone should be a lot able to make an argument. And it's not always going to be the same commissioners that are on the board now.
Mhm.
So an example might be like someone wants to build a deck in an area that's already lawn. Within 25 feet, something like that.
Right.
I think that's probably not something we would have an issue with. It would be more like the addition.
we've
That's cool.
allowed those recently,
Yeah,
frankly.
yeah.
Right, and that's where the person could make their own argument in the waiver.
Okay, that's fair. Paul, are you coming around on that?
I'm going to withhold.
Okay.
the
I'm
moment.
gonna leave this yellow. How's
Yeah,
that?
highlight that one because I'm still not there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, part of it is, I think the waiver language we have later on in this document covers pretty much everything, including this.
Yeah.
I don't think the waiver language, I don't think we need to necessarily call out waiver language here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think,
Um,
right, but I think the language that you're using is prohibitive by saying under no circumstances. So to me, reading it, that would mean you cannot even apply for a waiver for this. It won't even be entertained. And you'd have to have a strong reasoning for making that stand. If you have to defend this, you have to have strong reasoning to not even allow an argument in a waiver.
Well, see, I'm not sure I'd agree with Judy as to whether the waiver language later on in the document doesn't apply here.
Right.
I think it does. Yeah.
But what I'm saying.
I think the waiver language is essentially universal applies throughout the document.
Right, but this is the only spot where you say,
In the event.
yes. So that's why, to me, it's prohibitive.
I see the
Oh, so
point,
maybe we
but I'm
just need
not
to.
convinced.
Because I think in other areas, it's something like unless through a preponderance of evidence, one proves otherwise, something along those
Yeah.
lines.
It's like, is there a loss of functions? Within 25 feet, there's an assumption that there's alteration, but that presumption can be overcome.
Leave it highlighted for me, Eleanor.
Yeah. But no event maintained, but
I mean, the other option is just simply maintained,
but
but
not
may
made
not be
large.
made, but may not be made larger or moved closer to the wetland area.
Right, but that's saying the same thing. So you would allow a waiver then? You would allow someone to apply for a waiver?
We allow people to apply for waivers across the board under the rule. And
Yeah.
And
Right, but if you- but
it
if you-
still has lots of other prohibitions throughout, Judy.
But this one seems more pointed, I guess.
I'm not sure it's any different.
Is
Let's
that
move
better?
on.
May-
Let's move on and
Move
come
on,
back to
okay.
this.
Okay. Existing and pending project approvals. Okay, this was the one Brian McGrail sent in,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I think is fine, notwithstanding any provisions.
Notwithstanding is one word, though, not two.
Oh, goodness. Good, Paul. Notwithstanding any provisions to the contrary, the following projects shall be exempt from the requirements. I don't know that you need this first part. I would think you could just say the following projects could be exempt from the requirements herein, but I put the precise language in.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether we needed the introductory clause. It's very lawyerly. Oh, excuse me.
Jennifer, would you, I don't know, what do you think?
I can't think of a
Huh.
situation that applies to right now,
Mhm.
that language, so, maybe highlight it for now. as
Bracket
something-
it and highlight it. We'll see if we need to keep it
Oh,
there.
yeah, that's a good. Okay, I'll just say no, this bylaw to the contrary. I think we really don't need that. Okay, do you want me to highlight it?
Sorry.
Sneezing. Approved projects, or the, so I think that made good sense. Does that, I don't know why the spacing is funny. Projects in the approval process, any development, construction, or land use project for which a complete notice of intent application has been submitted to the Conservation Commission and accepted prior to the effective date of the bylaw. And then this was something that Elaine had suggested, which was the commission or its agent shall decide whether a project is deemed to be minor after consulting with the applicant, provided written notice has been given to the commission prior to the commencement of work, and provided the work conforms to performance standards and design specifications. So you can think about that.
How is this normally done under the Wetlands Protection Act?
I think we need Ethan. Can you pull that up quickly?
I don't think they have this language in there. An activity is either exempt or not exempt. It doesn't leave any room for someone deciding if it's exempt. Unless it goes to the commission as a whole.
Yeah. I think the way we had it before was the commission shall decide whether a project is deemed to be minor after consulting with the app. Well, hang on a second. I'll have to go back to see how that was written.
Would that be different than an RDA? Or could you just direct someone to doing an RDA?
Yeah. I mean, they're essentially just exempt from this bylaw. They're still filling an application, right?
If it's exempt, they wouldn't have to do an application.
No. It's exempt from the bylaw, not necessarily from the WPA. Let's think about this.
Yeah, if it's
Almost
exempt,
any- Go ahead, Ethan. I
Right.
think you and I were going to say the same thing.
if it's exempt, they don't have to come to us at all. They just wouldn't, they could just
Don't
do
know
it
about it.
without even a permit.
Yep.
And they could
I-
come to us if it's kind of on the fence, but
Yeah, I think the question I have is, mm, if we're talking about minor project exemptions up above,
This is minor existing structures, existing and pending projects,
right?
approvals. And
All
then
right. Well,
this actually
that-
maybe needs a space.
Well, then that really should go up above, if that appends to minor project exemptions, it should go there. It
Okay.
shouldn't be down here.
Do you agree with that, Jennifer?
Can you say that part again?
I'm suggesting that B up above is minor project exemptions. And this is mainly sort of the maintenance, repair, replacement of existing stuff. Are we seem to hear be saying that we should be deciding whether a project is minor after consulting with, in most of those cases up above, it's going to be DPW or one of the other utilities. Do we really want to be looking at everything those guys are doing and making that kind of decision as to whether it's minor?
I think
I'm not
Ethan
sure
and
we
Elaine do
do.
that. I think Ethan and
Well, I think that
No,
should
if
be
it's
the
minor,
issue.
then it just doesn't come to us at all.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
that's what I thought was going on. I didn't think Bill Renault was going to come to us and tell us that he was going to be doing the sidewalk on North Avenue, for example.
Well,
Though I wish he had, because I would have said, well, then do it in such a way to leave a room for a bike lane instead of the mess we have there now.
so you
Um,
want, are you saying you want to move this up
I
to
just don't see
section
what
B?
it's there for.
Okay.
I mean, I was
Hang on,
I was saying that it should be moved up to go under B, but I'm not sure why it should even exist. Because if we're talking, if we're talking about those matters under B, those are all matters that are taken up by either DPW or one of the utilities serving the town, the light district or the phone company or other telecom providers, none of whom should be coming to us and telling us they're going to be doing this stuff every time they have to do something, unless it's outside the realm of minor.
And
And I don't think we want, I mean, I suppose, I mean, Ethan, I'll ask you the question. Do you guys want to see, do you get notices now from the light district or DPW every time they're going to do something like this?
No, if it's qualifies as a minor exempt activity, we won't see it or hear about it at all.
Yeah, well, and that's fine as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not sure what Elaine's intention with this language really is. You see my problem, Eleanor?
my dogs are barking their heads off, so I couldn't hear.
Yeah. Yeah, we heard them. That's all right.
I mean, is this intended to cover more like private homeowners? As opposed to DPW? I mean, I agree that I think, and I'm in favor of sort of following or paralleling what the Wetlands Protection Act does.
So I just wanted to put what we had before, like this is essentially the posted bylaw of exemptions and exceptions. So it was, emergency projects and maintaining, repairing, and replacing these things. It just was missing
Well, it ignored highways, sidewalks,
sidewalks.
and everything
Yeah,
else DPW does.
yeah.
Well, I
And
think,
Mhm.
well, I mean, the Wetlands Protection Act has, I think, I mean, I'm looking right now, but I think they have provisions even for minor work, right? I mean, they say it's exempt as long as you do this. And if we have new resource areas that aren't covered by wetlands protection, how do we, what language do we use to make sure that that same standard from the WPA is applied to the new roads?
Is
I
that
mean,
what
I'm
you're
looking at
saying?
the
This is
language.
what,
Okay, so you're suggesting we need an additional definition of minor here.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm looking at the Wetlands Protection Act right now.
I think Elaine's concern is, for example, like if you add all these exemptions or something, and there's some bylaws that list out a ton of things, then people sort of interpret that as, oh, I'm exempt from this bylaw, so I'm exempt from the Wetlands Protection Act, right? And then they start doing things that should be permitted. I think that I think the thinking was you want to encourage homeowners to reach out to the Conservation Commission proactively versus just making an assumption, you know?
Well, then I would suggest we discuss,
I mean, we could highlight
consider
this
some
whole thing.
language about we have
Okay.
minor project exemptions up in B. This then seems to me to be a language that would probably be set out as a separate section, again, a paragraph, whatever. E, the commissioner or its agent shall decide whether a proposed project is minor.
You're right. That might be, should maybe make sense if it belongs up here, right? Or either at
Well,
the
I'm not
bottom.
sure it does, because if it does, then we need to make a distinction between those minor projects, which we've, and then we could do that. We can move it up. The commissioner or its agent shall decide whether any other project is deemed to be minor after consulting with the applicant. Maybe that's the way we deal with this. Because we've got some very specific minor project exemptions here.
Mhm.
Those 3 bullets. And we want those.
Right,
I mean, otherwise, Bill's going to be going crazy, and we don't want to see all that stuff.
right.
But we don't want anything with this language here. The commissioner or its agent shall decide whether any other proposed project is deemed to be minor after consulting with the applicant. And then
This
the rest of
just,
the language of notice. It's fine.
this just says whether a project is deemed to
Yeah,
be
and I
minor.
think the language needs to be more specific. Because we don't want to talk about minor projects with Bill every time, nor with Wumgold or
So are you
the phone
suggesting
company.
this whole thing move up here?
You can put it up there if you want. I don't care. It could also be its own new paragraph E. Doesn't matter to me. But what I am saying is the commissioner or its agent shall decide whether any other proposed project is deemed to be minor. And I think it does go up under B for exactly that reason.
Any other project? Oh,
Because we're talking about
yeah,
minor project exemptions.
okay.
So you put it up there in B, and it reflects the fact that there are exemptions for minor projects. There's blanket exemptions for minor projects related to utilities, roads, sidewalks, etc. Sort of the public good. But then other minor projects, which someone may propose, have to come to Ethan at least and talk to him and get a determination and still do their work in conformance with whatever performance standards we want to see.
Ethan, do you have thoughts on this?
Wouldn't you just want that to be like an RDA? Or is that more of an administrative approval? Because then what's the standards that you're judging it based on?
Yeah, I suppose it could be just an RDA.
Well, so I'm looking at the Wetlands Protection Act section, and like minor activities include things like planting native species of shrubs, ground cover. And it does say, provided that they comply with, this previous section of the Wetlands Protection Act, which says that the work will be done in a manner that reduces the potential for adverse impacts to the resource area. A little bit more language than that, but I don't know why we would want to see if we don't want to see that for a BVW, why would we want to see it for a vernal pool necessarily, or a isolated wetland?
You mean the proposed minor language?
Yeah,
Jennifer?
if something gets exempted for like let's say, I'm thinking primarily of the types of work that private residents do, planting native species, converting impervious to vegetated surface. If we don't see that under the WPA for like a bordering vegetated wetland, why would we ask people to come to us for a vernal pool or a isolated wetland? I mean,
I was
wouldn't we
thinking
just
we
kind
would
of use
take-
the same?
I was thinking we would have these exemptions on top of the WPA ones.
Mm-hmm.
So we should almost just take what's in the WPA and put it in here some way
Mm,
or
You
another.
don't, I don't think you want to do that because then your bylaw doesn't stand. If you're just using the same WPA exemptions.
Well, as sort of a base
Well,
to
we've
start
already
from,
said,
Yeah.
like as far as plantings,
Yeah,
mowing lawn, those sort of things.
haven't we already said though, that WPA, wherever we're silent, the WPA
yes,
applies, right?
yes.
Okay.
And so in my mind, we're saying these new standards, like the 25-foot no build, or protections around isolated wetlands, you're exempted if you fit these categories. Like
Mhm.
we've broadened this. You have a project that was already approved or is in the works. You're maintaining existing structure and uses. Do we like structures or work? Can I say structures or uses? Is that better than? I don't know.
I'd say work's okay. I mean,
Okay.
for
So
example,
you're
road work.
yeah, you're exempt from this bylaw, right?
Yep.
What about something like Jennifer was saying, like planting native species, converting, impervious surfaces to vegetated surfaces? Those are ones that you would want to include as a basis
Mm-hmm.
to build from, because
Right.
those are in the WPA.
Right, because those are exempt from the
They're
Right.
not
Yeah.
exempt from the bylaw until we add that in here.
Well, we could leave it though as these minor actions. Any other project, they can consult with you, Ethan.
But that's typically you wouldn't consult, like if you were just turning, your driveway into a vegetated surface, you can do that because it's exempt. But under the bylaw, you'd be asking them to come to us first, or any
Yeah.
other,
That does
Um,
seem excessive. You're
like
right.
unpaved pedestrian walkways,
Could you
fencing, that sort of stuff.
come up with some language that we can drop in here to that effect then?
I would think
agree.
you
I
could
would
just
agree
take,
with you.
you could just take the WPA exemptions and copy and paste those for the most part.
Refer to them, or we can copy paste them.
Yeah.
I do think we want to specify that we're talking about applying them to all of the resource areas covered under the bylaw. Or at
Yes.
least
We
make
want to be
sure that
specific you're right, Jennifer. We have to be specific that it's applying to the resource areas that we're covering under the bylaw, in addition to whatever's covered already under the WPA. Agreed.
it's a list that's like maybe well, I don't know. I mean, maybe at some point we want to just go through the list and say, are we okay with this? Do we think that this is
Okay.
okay to happen within the 25-foot no disturb as a minor activity without review?
Yeah, what page is the exemptions on? I'll just pull it.
6.
In what?
Activity
WPA?
Mm-hmm.
activities within the buffer zone, and then the first
This
number
is it.
1 is minor activities, number 2 is exempt minor activities. Activities do usually include provisions, fencing, provided it will not constitute a barrier to wildlife movement.
So we could say something like the minor activities described in this are exempt. Of course, if they change it.
You might just want to copy and paste them that way. You can word it so that it applies to all the resources in the bylaw.
Yeah, like. Sorry, you're saying copy and paste this whole thing from the WPA?
Well, let's
Sort of.
look at them. Unpaved pedestrian walkways less than 30 inches wide for private use. Okay. Fencing, if
do-
it's not a barrier for the wildlife, sure.
I don't know. Do you want people doing these in the vernal pool habitat?
No.
Well, if that constitutes a barrier to wildlife movement, then they couldn't do it.
Well, fencing, that's right. But what about walkways?
Right.
Unpaved walkways?
Here above it, it says, provided that they comply with 310 CMR 1002 2B1. And
Mhm.
in that section, it outlines that they can't impact a resource.
Okay.
So that language to some sort would come with it. It says that the work is solely within the buffer zone, including reducing the potential for any adverse impacts.
That makes it hard because if you, for example, call vernal pool habitat,
Mm.
right, a resource, then you don't necessarily want people, you know, putting in walkways there.
Oh, they couldn't put the walkway in the habitat, but they could put it just outside the habitat.
I feel like yeah, so we would have to customize this a little bit.
You just have to make sure you identify which resources it applies to. Like instead of saying 310 CMR, you would just say the resource area is identified in this bylaw.
To think about that. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this and put under minor exemptions, add one more bullet. Is that what we're thinking? Something like other minor, I don't know. Something like other minor activities that are exempt. Oh. This is how it began. So Ethan, if you want to come up with some language for this, that would be.
Yeah. I think we'd ask you to come back with something for our next
Like a,
discussion, Ethan.
yeah, for Friday.
I'd probably just copy what was here rather than trying to create new language.
I don't think we
but
want to
take a
bring
look
all
at-
this into
Take a
all of
look
our,
at this language, because there's an awful lot here that we don't need to bring over.
Okay.
I think
So maybe
Eleanor's
it's-
right. It needs to be simplified.
yeah, minor activities. So this is where I kind of, yeah, worry about this a little. It's a slippery slope where suddenly you go from a 30-foot, wide unpaved walkway to a 6-foot wide paved sidewalk through the buffer zone. I don't know.
Well, that wouldn't be an exempt activity, Eleanor.
Zone, as identified in, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, this is a lot. Like I think we'd have to find other examples. I think it's,
I mean, I think Ethan, he highlighted some important examples below. The fencing generally is fine. Conversion of the lawn, that's probably the one we want to encourage.
mhm. So,
Um,
okay. We could probably look at including, okay, we could just say um, including fencing so long as not a barrier. What was the other one? Converting. Sorry, I
well,
can't.
the lawn conversion is a really lengthy section, actually.
Lawn to native lawn and pervious surface to native, impervious.
Impervious.
Um, is there anything else? Oh. Okay.
Seems to me the other thing, we're still going to need that commissioner or its agent shall decide whether any other project is deemed to be minor.
Do we need minor, or if it, the commission would decide if it applies to the bylaw?
To be minor under this bylaw.
Yeah. Okay.
Wouldn't that just be covered under the waiver? Or is this separate?
I feel like a waiver is, you're saying the work you're going to do applies under the bylaw, but you're asking the commission to waive the bylaw so you can do the work anyway.
Whereas minor projects don't ever come to us.
Well, this is asking for them to come to you so you can
Come to
decide they're
you.
minor.
They should check with you, right? On some of these things, isn't it better to err?
Sometimes, but I think by writing this, it says that all minor activities have to come to you.
No. I guess what we're saying, you're right, Ethan. We're saying the commissioner or its agent shall decide whether any other project, other than those utility, etc., municipal projects, is deemed to be minor after consulting with the applicant.
And then if you include that language, I think you need some sort of standard to point to as far as making a decision.
I think what we really want to say here is if it fits the minor project exemption under, like, you're exempt from this bylaw versus the Wetlands Protection Act, right?
So if it fits the minor project exemption under the WPA, you're also exempt here. Is that what you're saying, Eleanor?
Hang on a second. Sorry. I'm gonna go around and go on.
There's
Jennifer, you look.
also the language in the setback says that the commission shall presume that work within 25 feet of a resource area or vernal pool or isolated wetland will result in alteration of the resource. So those are a little bit in conflict right now, unless work is defined as something specific like digging, filling, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess the way I'm thinking of it along the lines of Jennifer is we've said these are now essentially the buffer zone is now a resource area, right? Under the Wakefield bylaw. And we're giving, so we want higher performance standards. We want you to not disturb, the first 25 feet, for example. But in these circumstances, you will be waived from the Wakefield bylaw. That's how I was interpreting it. So I don't know that I want to get into Wetlands Protection Act exemptions because they can exempt a lot of things that we would, like, I think we want to look at any new work in a 25-foot buffer, even if it's like quote unquote minor. I think we want to make that determination, right? Because it's no longer just work in the buffer, like, that's exempted. I mean, if you remember the attorney, well, I don't. The argument for the school was the work was all in the buffer zone, right? So.
So I'm looking now, I wonder if, kind of citing or referring to the definition of like alteration helps us to kind of split this or make this distinction. So alteration includes things like excavation, dredging, changing drainage characteristics, changing the water table, dumping, discharging material, fill, driving piles,
Right.
placing obstructions in water. And so I think a lot of these minor activities, destroying plant life, I think a lot of these minor activities. So if activity happened in the 25-foot no disturb, but it wasn't one of these alterations, do we want to review that? Because maybe we can use that to make that distinction.
I think ideally the exemptions would be in place even within the setback, but you could also write it so they have to be outside of the setback too.
Can you give an example of, let's see.
Like if you're installing a fence, for example, you could say it's exempt unless it's within the setback. Or you could say it's exempt anyways, even within the setback.
I don't think we want people to start adding fences in the 25-foot buffer,
Agreed.
right? Unless it fits an existing structure and uses. exemption. You know what I mean? Like you're replacing, you know, you're putting a fence over your existing lawn kind of thing, right?
I think that's definitely true for vernal pool habitats,
Mhm.
where they need that 100 foot.
Mm-hmm. But-
And isolated, that's not a vernal pool, I don't know.
So for
You know,
that one, you could make it so the fencing exemption isn't exempt within the setback, or instead you could just make all the exemptions only apply outside of the setbacks. So you could sort of go through each one and see if you want this to apply everywhere or everywhere outside the setback,
And when you say the setback, you mean the 25
the
foot?
25 foot. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because there's still the requirement to not pose an impact to the resource area, no matter the distance.
And one way to deal with that could be to have a presumption that activity within the 25-foot buffer area has an impact.
Yeah.
The applicant can demonstrate otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, we say that, I wonder if that section should come up earlier.
Where do we say that?
I think we talk about later on. It's kind of weird because the factors.
That's that language, the presumption of alteration is in the setback.
Yeah, where's the setback? Hang on.
I think as far as adding that presumption, that can easily just be added to the exemption section. It's just deciding if you want to add it or not. But you could also add it in that first paragraph above where it lists the exemptions.
Hang on a second. Sorry, where's the setback paragraph again? Buffer zone. Okay. So here, yeah, this whole section. It's kind of the most important part, but it comes later. Sorry, we're stuck on this. So how can we?
So I think like in the Wetlands Protection Act where it says, provided the work is solely within the buffer zone, you
Mhm.
could just say that it's within the buffer zone and outside the 25-foot setback. So it's not really difficult to add it. It's just deciding if you want to add it.
Makes
And then
sense
if you want to add it
as-
to all of the exemptions or just two specific ones.
Is that what we just want to say?
And then the question is, do you want that to apply to every exemption?
And I think, sorry, we also want to say here is deemed to be minor. So here's where and deemed to be a minor project under this bylaw, right? Because there are going to be things that are minor under the Wetlands Protection Act that we wouldn't want to have happen here, right?
Sure. I think it's a little difficult to actually implement that. Because then you'd have to identify what you're basing your decision off of.
It's hard to say whether, sorry, the bylaw applies or not. Is that what you're saying?
Know whether an activity is minor. Because you would presume that if it's not listed here, then it's not minor. But then when it comes to determining if it's minor, you'd want to be able to show what basis you're determining it off of.
Okay.
So what are, you're saying you want to refer this, sorry, you were suggesting referring this to the, do you want to copy?
I think that section might just have to go because that's new compared to how it is in the WPA. So if
Wait,
you did want to add that part that's highlighted, that last sentence, if you did want to add it, I think it would take a lot more discussion of figuring out how.
Oh, just delete this altogether. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jennifer?
Yeah, I mean, I think what happens already now, I think is fine, where they either consult with, you know, the agent and, or they do an RDA.
Because what I do now isn't determining if something is minor, it's determining if something qualifies as a minor exemption under the WPA. So it's not really up to my decision, it's just my interpretation of how it applies.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Jennifer said, it could just be an RDA as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are
I think-
do we want to modify any of the exemptions under WPA so that they are either broader or narrower under this bylaw, or are we just going to leave them as is?
Trying to pull it up.
I mean, I think Ethan, what you were suggesting earlier was just live with the WPA's set of exemption language.
Yeah, having that as well as what we just added here.
Okay.
So sorry, give me the exact, I can't type and read, like when I start
No,
typing in this, it goes
I
away.
think what you've
We can
got
add
here,
this later. It's just determining if we want to add it or not.
following minor activities, provided they comply with section that I don't have in front of me right now.
Yeah, what is this section called?
It's just the previous one right above it. Number 2, and then it's just.
2B1, all right, minor activities within the buffer zone.
Uh,
You just eliminated it, Eleanor, so I can't read it.
oh,
Well, I
shoot.
think we can work on the language
Yeah.
itself later. It's just
All right.
maybe we go through each exemption.
Yeah, I
and
don't know why I
identify-
can't get it up again. Give me 1 second. This
Let's
is
go through
irritating.
each exemption and see if we want to keep it the same or if we want to change them.
That's
And
fair.
then, yeah. And then as far as adding it, I mean, adding it to the documents, the easier part, we can just do that later.
Okay. So this is within the buffer zone, right?
Yeah, so starting at that section 2, at the bottom.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, the following minor, okay. Activities, so unpaved pedestrian walkways for private use and less than 3 feet wide for public access on conservation property. Oh, it's only for conservation. I still would want to
So
look at,
it's 30 inches for private and then 3 feet.
and
for-
less than 3 feet from, okay. Do you want that to be exempt?
No.
Yeah,
No,
no,
The section that's referred to here, number 1, says that, it would be done in a manner, so as to reduce the potential for any adverse impacts to the resource area.
Yeah. like
Well, during
unpaved-
construction and with post-construction measures. Well, implemented to stabilize into any
So
discharge.
they'd have to
area.
comply with one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause
but
unpaved
even that,
pedestrian
even,
walkways are just like, it could be like stepping stones, could be a dirt
Mhm.
path.
Well, yeah, it would have to be unpaved, which means dirt path or stepping stones, or could be gravel walkways too.
Yeah, but that still has to be outside the resource area and then implementing like the construction measures when necessary.
Yeah, I guess it would, the question would come up, the new path work along the lake
Yep. And then the vernal pool, like
or a
near
new
a
path
vernal
around the vernal
pool.
pool.
Yeah, like in town forest or something like that.
I mean, one potential thing, I do think we have to go through these one by one, but for the previous section, it does really focus on adverse impacts during construction. So we might want to say, that it also minimizes, or reduces potential adverse impacts, adverse permanent impacts.
Mhm.
Um,
Well,
Yeah, we can make sure
Um,
that's included.
wait, adverse permanent impacts or?
Yeah, like the walkway itself, like we wouldn't necessarily want like certain walkways to just make a ring around a vernal pool, but if they, as long as they don't do something kind of extreme like that, maybe that would be okay.
But then I think that's something we would want to permit, right? And not just exempt it. To me, we want to look at these. We don't want to just do an exemption for that.
Well, in that
Work.
case, they couldn't do the path like in the vernal pool habitat. It would have to be outside the habitat. And
Mhm.
then if there's no buffer to that, that might not even be something you see.
Mm.
Because they still have to be outside of any resource area.
It could get a little bit specific, like I think what we've been talking about up till now has been a 25-foot no disturb for vernal pools, which means there's a buffer area that is a resource area, but it's not necessarily, the entire buffer is not necessarily no touch.
So this is where Elaine's feedback was just putting a 25-foot no disturb on a vernal pool, like you weren't protecting it because they migrate into the upland. So if you allow the destruction of the upland habitat, you've basically, like the upland portion, you've basically destroyed the vernal pool habitat.
mhm.
I think it depends on what you're talking about. A single footpath, in the 100-foot buffer of a vernal pool, I mean, that would be different than say cutting down all the trees and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess this is where I would want to look at something like that and not say it's automatically exempted from this. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
Fine.
we could revisit the exemptions on Friday
Yeah.
once we identify the resources better.
Okay,
Well,
That way we
let's
know
keep moving
what we're
through
exempting.
this and
conversion,
come back to the exemptions Friday. I think that's actually a good thought. How long are we meeting Friday?
just an hour. So we have to just keep it focused on one thing like exemptions or
Let's do that.
the resource areas.
I think we're gonna lock down the resources and the jurisdiction and the buffers. So from
Okay.
after that, it'll be a lot easier to get things like the exemptions done.
Okay. So come back. So did you want to look at these quickly? So conversion of lawn to
That should be exempt.
uses such as, no, conversion of lawn such as decks, sheds, patios, pools.
Hmm,
Okay.
And
no.
but that one's only if the activity is 50 feet or more away from the resource area.
Area. Yeah. So we can look at that one. Pervious.
Mhm,
Monitoring wells. These are the planning design purposes.
mhm.
Installation of utility poles, that kind of thing.
Are there more below? After H, or is that the last?
There's a lot more. Sorry, installation of underground utilities, installation of underground sewer lines.
Those are all within roadways.
Yeah.
or
Are those all?
driveways. Yes.
Oh, within existing roadways, okay. Yeah. Vegetation cutting. Signal work. Yeah, so we can think about that.
And the last paragraph basically talks about an RDA.
But yeah,
Okay.
okay. So going on, but I think these 4 basic things are what we're looking for. Let's see. This didn't change. This didn't change. Why did we cross this out before? Do you
I
know?
have no idea.
It's-
Is it
That was,
redundant?
I think Tom Mullen's advice was for that to go in the regulations.
We had it, let me just go back to the draft. We had a really long one and we trimmed it down. Hang on, this was the
I think it's because we already have that rule in place today.
rule in place today. Oh, like it under the Wetlands Protection Act? So
I think
this
it's
was,
under something else, but yeah.
so this was the version that's posted on the website. So we had it up. I remember when we met with Tom, there was it was almost a page long, so there was stuff, we pared it back. There was stuff that was sort of more appropriate for regulations. So should we bring it back?
I think we have, if we're gonna have regulations, I think we have to say this in the bylaw, the first part of it.
You
That
have
will
to say,
promulgate rules and regulations. I think
We
that
can
has
keep
to be
it on-
part of the bylaw that gets voted on if we're gonna do that.
yeah,
we can keep it here on the side, and once we get to that section, we could dive deeper into it.
so I'm gonna put reject change. Okay. Can I unhighlight this for now? We still have to do this anyway. We have to do the regulations. Okay, permits and conditions. Denial. Okay. These were the permits and conditions section. We talked about factors, loss, degradation, impact, all that stuff. Resource area loss. And then we talk about each one.
We currently say, that the buffer zone is a resource area. And where it says resource area loss, it says to prevent wetland loss, so.
Mhm.
But I think that has to include the 25-foot buffer where we wanna make that unregistered.
Do we put that here? Oh, I thought it was here? No?
Well, there's resource area loss, which says to prevent wetland loss.
Mhm.
But I think we probably want to, I mean, I think part of the reason to make the buffer zone a resource area is to say that the buffer zone has its own values that are beyond just protecting the wetland. They have their own habitat.
Mhm.
Well, we could also say
Carbon sequestration, climate.
to prevent wetland
pollution
loss,
prevention.
Mhm.
the commission shall require applicants to avoid wetland or buffer area alteration.
Some of
Because
the-
altering the
some of
buffer area at least within the 25-foot no disturb zone we want. We're making the presumption that that's going to cause damage to the resource areas, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, but some of the interests like water quality, like the buffer, you
It's-
know, filters.
You're right, it's a
pollutants
broader
in the
area than just
water.
the 25 feet.
Yeah, and that water could end up, we want it to be clean if it ends up across town, which it might, even
Right.
after it leaves the wetland.
Yeah, okay. So
mean-
how do you want to end up with this language? You want to define resource area as what?
so this was, we were following the Concord bylaw, which at this point, kind of breaking up the sections, we can go back and look at the MAC template. Because Bill said he ran into issues with the Concord template, like with the Concord bylaw.
Yeah, but when Bill says he ran into issues, that meant it made it more difficult for him to build things.
That's true. So you want to incorporate buffer zone into resource area loss? You guys are thinking, is that what we're thinking?
Well, how far out for the buffer zone? Because I don't think we want to take it out 100 feet necessarily. I think at a minimum, we do want to take it out to limiting, to saying that 25, that inner 25 feet of no disturb, that damage to that is damage to a resource area. It's a rebuttable presumption, obviously, but that's the case across the board, right? So
I I agree with that. I mean,
how far do we go?
I
25 feet, 50 feet? I don't think we go 100 feet.
well, that's already regulated. You do the 100 feet for the vernal pool habitat, essentially. And then, I mean, I guess that's my other question. Do you have 50 feet limited disturb? Yep.
I mean, I suppose I would be in favor of like a vernal pool having a 100-foot buffer resource area. But perhaps having the flexibility, like, for example, like Sudbury's bylaw, which says that the commission can decide to require protection of all of it or part of it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we're committing ourselves to like a no disturb of 100 feet around the vernal pool. But we might say it's really important to protect some of this habitat out to 100 feet, maybe not all the way around it, because the distance is important. But then maybe for other resource areas like an isolated wetland that's not a vernal pool, maybe it's just 25 feet. That's it. 25-foot buffer and yeah, maybe 25-foot no disturb there too.
Sorry, are you saying it wasn't Shutesbury, it was Sudbury?
I'm thinking about Sudbury, or at least parts of Sudbury.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at permits and conditions. Vernal pools. I just wanted to see how they handled, to prevent resource area loss, the commission shall require applicants to avoid alteration wherever feasible. So that's essentially the same thing as this. Okay. And then this is their buffer zone. And we could go back to their language, actually. Maybe that's better. kind of the same thing. Can you guys see that? I can make it larger. So
I don't see a specific,
this says in
it's-
reviewing activities within the buffer
Yeah.
zone,
yeah, I read that, but I don't see a
Mhm.
specific distance there.
yeah. I am,
Yeah, I mean, maybe, maybe, being really clear about that distinction where the vernal pool habitat, you know, is the area, is the resource area, it's out to 100 feet. And not using buffer zone for that, because buffer zone implies that it's really
Right.
only serves to protect the resource area.
Well, and we essentially don't do that with vernal pools. We say it's vernal pool habitat out to 100 feet from the boundary. And therefore, it seems to me, if we leave it like that, we've got the protection we want for the pool and
the habitat.
the habitat around it, right?
Yeah. And then we
So-
have the existing structures exemption. So if you happen to have a home that was built near, you know, within the vernal pool habitat, you're exempted
Right.
essentially for limited.
Or if you built a driveway through it some time ago,
Yeah. You're, yes, you're exempted.
right?
So I feel like it's fair.
Mhm.
Um, and so, and again, I think the language we have mirrors what, you know, I go back to the Mac template, but it's the same here. Um, so I mean, we could look at other bylaws to see if they're more specific about it here.
I think this does what we want to do, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure we need to spend,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I'm actually wondering, so land within 100 feet of a resource area, if it's within 100 feet of a vernal pool, we're calling that a vernal pool habitat, so maybe we don't want to call that a buffer zone. And I'm not personally sure that something like an isolated wetland that's not a vernal pool needs 100 feet of buffer.
I think we can go back and just as detailed in 2A, just
Mhm.
make sure 2A is talking about oh, you're right. It does seem like it's implying we have to group these better. Okay. So you're saying we just need to clean this up to better line up with section 2A, like section 2A essentially, where we define the resource areas.
I think it makes sense in that original section to define any buffer or resource area around it. That's, I don't
Why can I?
I see calling it a buffer for an isolated wetland, but not calling it a buffer for a vernal pool habitat.
Oh, this is first. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to add a note. Okay. I don't know why that's doing that. Oop. Okay. So section 2, we need better defined buffer zones, like the resource area and buffer zone.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to jump back up there quickly and see if we agree on that or no? And Paul, we'll try to end this at 9. That works for everybody.
Good idea.
It
I
might be good to at least have some preliminary discussion about how people are thinking about a buffer zone for an isolated wetland and
Yeah,
intermittent stream. And we can always
hey, we also need to look at that area that you've got highlighted there, Eleanor. That strip of continuous undisturbed vegetative cover. I mean, we looked at the property along that was within the 200-foot buffer to the riverfront area on Valley
mm-hmm.
this past weekend, and that's not, there's no way that applicant can maintain 100-foot undisturbed vegetative cover within the 100 or 200-foot area, because the applicant's on the opposite side of the road on a relatively small lot.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't have, it's not feasible for them in building this garage that they want to build to do anything along those lines, really.
I guess I was thinking after our last conversation that really our bylaw doesn't impact the riverfront, right? Like we're not putting in
We're not
new,
doing anything new in riverfront
yeah.
compared to what the state law does. No.
So does it come out? Although I haven't seen a bylaw that didn't have riverfront in it, you know?
Well, what are we saying in G below?
Riverfront area in the case of 200 feet rivers and perennial streams. In addition to meeting the otherwise applicable requirements in the bylaw. Has proved by preponderance of the evidence that there's no practical alternative. I don't know why this is in the riverfront area. This sounds kind of weird, actually.
I think that's a
In
more
the case of,
broad
yeah, in the case of,
set of language that should apply more generally than just riverfront.
Isn't that, well, the bylaw, the map model bylaw purposely makes the riverfront stricter, but isn't the practicable alternative already part of the WPA for the riverfront?
what do you mean the practical alternative?
Meaning,
Oh,
there needs to be an alternative analysis for work in the riverfront. Isn't that already? the
yeah.
WPA
I mean, the
standard?
WPA and I think stormwater standards are pretty high. So I don't know, like I know this was in here, but I don't know what additional thing our bylaw would do, and I'm wondering if we take it out. But then I just haven't seen an example where a bylaw doesn't have a riverfront area.
Right, I mean, I think it, it gives the Concom the jurisdiction to set regulations, even though we actually don't have any plans for regulations right now.
Mhm.
Which I'm fine with,
I mean, essentially, Paul, how will like the WPA treat that project, right? Aren't they allowed up to 5,000 square feet of alteration?
Within the riverfront?
Riverfront, yeah,
Well, they're certainly doing far less than that.
yeah.
I think it's reasonable for us to maintain some discussion of riverfront area in what we do here.
Mhm.
I don't think we want to lose the ability. We should probably step back and think about whether there's any. And
see if-
think about whether there's anything we want to do with riverfront that isn't done already in the WPA. And if there's not, well, then we just leave the mention of riverfront here in case we later come up with something that we think we need to regulate. Remember, this is in part an enabling piece of enabling legislation. It allows us to implement regulations.
Right.
So even though we may not choose to implement something right now, the language needs to be open enough that we could do something later. Sorry, Jennifer, you were going to say something.
I was wondering, and this is like really preliminary and, you know, so just sort of putting this out there. About, you know, one thing that I think it is possible to regulate when you're protecting wildlife habitat is, you know, tree cutting during certain nesting seasons, you know, because those birds depend on the wetland for their food. So is that something that we could potentially regulate in riverfront area and say if you're tree cutting in riverfront, don't do it in these basically 2 months of nesting season, something like that. Or maybe not for a single tree, but for maybe put a threshold on it. Per acre of trees, you know,
I think so.
quarter acre tree canopy or something.
Seems reasonable to think about that, yeah.
Mhm. So in that case, it's good to have riverfront area in here.
Seems like something like that actually could be something we enable we give ourselves the authority to deal with it here, and then we can write regulations around it if we think we need them. I mean, one of the things I've found somewhat challenging is that our town has no tree bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
And in my neighborhood, you probably don't come down the hill, Eleanor,
Oh, I do.
to Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
See that house on the corner of Eustis and Elm that they've essentially demolished all the trees around it?
Oh, no, I haven't seen that.
No,
Okay.
today they were grubbing out roots and stumps. I'm guessing it's another acquisition of a corner property to do what they're doing up at the corner of Prospect and Parker.
But they took down all those trees. Yep.
Well, and where they're building a second house on the lot. I think this is how developers are getting hired in Wakefield, is essentially dropping 2 houses in lots that offer them the area to do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, and obviously it's something that can be done within the limits of our zoning laws.
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of the one at the bottom of Eustis, it resulted in the removal of some very substantial mature trees.
Yeah.
Which is
Well,
kind of unfortunate and something I'd rather not see, but there's nothing in any of our bylaws that prohibit that or constrained it. And frankly, I don't think I want to start that fight right now. I think we need to deal
we have enough.
we need to deal with this bylaw,
Yeah.
get this one squared away, and then get it in a form that it actually can pass muster.
Right.
And then think about whether there's anything else we need to do.
Well, I
May
think
not.
there's, yeah, things we
So-
can do a little reordering, maybe. Like the
Well, I
setback
think-
and the buffer could be side by side.
You mean just move setback up and put,
Yeah,
well,
that kind of
yeah,
thing.
fine.
But that's not a big deal. Did we want to just go back up to the top and see if we're okay, if we agree on
Well-
setbacks?
Well, let's just finish down here. Let's
Okay.
go down through the end of the document and see if there's anything else we have to deal with.
Setback. Okay, so we removed the vernal pool, reference to the vernal pool.
we just say within the vernal pool,
Will
within
habitat.
vernal pool habitat. I'm not, yeah.
Yeah. Site conditions or mitigation measures will prevent. I think that was added earlier. Filling,
Yeah, that's
excavating.
fine.
Okay. And then we also say alternatively, the commission may waive the setback if it determines an applicant satisfies the waiver requirement. And then vernal pool habitat. So this was Elaine's suggestion for approaching it. Instead of presumption, you just define, kind of
Define it.
define it, describe it. And then you have guidelines for determining if a ponding area is a vernal pool. And then essentially, if a vernal pool, like a ponding area, is not a vernal pool. So you explain how you're going to define it. So we'll consider the state guidelines for the certification of vernal pool habitat as defined by the Mass Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. This assessment may be performed by a subject matter expert who has certified vernal pools under NHESP, like if we wanted something broader. And for the purposes of overcoming the presumption of vernal pool habitat, the commission will consider information presented by an independent reviewer demonstrating that a ponding area is not vernal pool habitat.
I think we
How-
want to, I would recommend that we reference the qualifications in K above for anyone doing that in L.
Mm,
In other words, a subject matter expert who has
yeah,
certified vernal pools. Same qualifications of
should we
in
say
both
as defined above or something? Yes.
as defined in K above.
Yeah.
I think we need to deal with it that way.
Yeah. Demonstrating that a ponding area is not, wait, hang on a second. For purpose. Commission will consider information presented by a subject matter.
Expert as defined in in paragraph K above.
Okay. K above. Demonstrate.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Do we need this an independent qualified reviewer? Sorry, I was just looking at that again. It sounds funny. Commission will consider
No, I
information.
don't think we need it twice.
Hang on a second. For purposes of presenting.
I think it's one or the other. Either we accept the
above.
language in K above or we put our own language here.
It's not acceptable to the commission and follows the guidelines for the conservation. Okay, I think that's reads right now. Can you take a look, Jennifer? Not a vernal pool. Habitat. Since we defined it and follows, I don't think we need this.
I mean, one thing that I want to think about, because I think these criteria that are referred to actually,
Oh,
I
they're
think
here.
the,
Put the links.
okay. And does that require that analysis to be done in the spring?
I think let me look at it. It's funny because when you look at it, let me see if I can pull it up. Just gonna go up here. Just pulling it up. I think it did. Let me see. Guidelines for certification of vernal pool. Is that what I just referred to? Hang on, let me just, do you have my draft up just so I can make sure I'm referencing the correct vernal pool certification? Here.
Those are only guidelines.
Um,
They
hang
are
on a
not
second.
regulations.
No. They're guidelines. They were instructions. Hang on a second. Let me just open it up. Yes, I think this is what we were looking at. Yes, here are the certification criteria.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wonder, the previous page had the, identifying a vernal pool habitat when dry. And it's not as, it kind of says, look for these things, and then check back in spring. But I wonder if we want to actually allow that so that we don't kind of set everybody's project on on a 1 year, like, potential delay or 10-month delay.
Yeah.
Where we might accept that evidence of the vernal pool when dry.
I think,
Oh, where does it say only in the spring? Up here?
Well, I mean, just, some of these, like, the wood frog, chorus, I mean, I think you could really only assess that if you could go back to the table about the obligate species.
Yeah.
I think you could only really find that evidence in spring. The fairy shrimp, I think you would only
Yeah,
find it in
yeah.
spring.
Yeah. You have to track it. I mean, I think the way Concord does it is they keep like a map, like a listing of vernal pools. So that's another.
well, we could do that, but Jennifer's given us a start on that, actually. But
Yeah, and many of them are.
doesn't this
smaller,
document,
surrounded by
Eleanor,
private
doesn't this
property.
document actually give you something about dry certification? Thought
Not
it did.
sure.
Well,
Let me
just
Yeah,
you scroll down,
Oh, I
scroll
did.
back
Okay.
up and let's look.
Let me start from the top. Okay, background.
And then I'd like to wrap up because
Yeah.
I'm staying with friends and I really should be social with them for a while.
Okay. Oh,
that's page, the web page had its own kind of page of.
oh, you want me to
vernal
go
pool.
back to the web page? Okay, let's see.
Yeah, and I mean, potentially we could just look at it between now and, I
Yeah.
don't even, maybe between now and Friday, if we're
Yeah.
expected to talk on Friday. And I can send it, it's just a 1-page document.
Okay,
I don't know why. Yeah.
that's fine. Let's conclude on the rest of this then.
Okay, so we got waiver. I think we had no issues with that.
No, I think we're good there. The 3 years is pretty much statutory, I think.
Yep.
We have the ability to go to 5. Revocation, amendments, recording, it's all
Yeah.
pretty much.
This was something Elaine said was important to just make sure we got the book and page number or certificate number.
Yep, agreed.
And then that was it.
And we have to write rules.
Yes. I'm still wondering about fines, but
Well, we should
Just-
authorize fines here in this bylaw.
mhm.
If we don't authorize them here, we can't put them in the regulations. So what do we have
Yeah.
down there at the bottom? Anything?
We have nothing for fines.
Well, it would be easy enough to, what do we say on enforcement? Let's go all the way down to that. There must be something on enforcement. If there's nothing on enforcement, then we need to add something to it for enforcement.
Yeah, we have like
Regulations,
loss of permit or something like that.
appeals. I don't think there is anything in terms of
Enforcement, yeah.
I think we
There's
need to
something
add
on
enforcement.
enforcement.
Sorry?
Yeah, there's something on enforcement in here, like loss of permit or something like that.
No, I don't think we have it in the language itself.
I think we need to add something on enforcement. That we can cancel a permit and we can also impose fines.
Why wouldn't you do an enforcement order rather than fines?
What's the
Well,
teeth in an
because we're not
enforcement
very
order?
good at like staying on top of enforcement orders.
You virtually never issue enforcement orders.
True.
Well, didn't
Very
we did
weird.
one for 129, what, is it Oak Street?
Right, the Bill's working on, yep. But that was the only one within like the last, there've
2
been
years.
a handful in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have
The
somebody at,
fines
Hmm.
Is a big jump.
what's
and
that?
was-
Fine, okay.
I mean, that was the reason it was shot down the last 2 times at town meeting, was the fines.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah,
When I looked at the fines for that other towns use, which there's a presentation that has them, and I can send that too. It's like $100 the first day, and if you notify people, hey,
right, but if
You
you
can-
start with an enforcement order, 99% of the time, the person complies with whatever the issue is. So
mhm.
the problem that people have with fines are they're arbitrary, depending on depending on the commission, depending on how aggressive they are. I think that's the sticking point with people. How are they going to be applied?
So is Bill working on that one, the 129?
I think so, yeah.
So how can we get some kind of update on them? At the
Well, we're meeting with
Town-
him Friday, so let's ask him.
we can ask them then, but no, at the town event, someone did come up and speak with us at length who, was next door to somebody who was like a habitual offender and that the town had been out numerous times.
Right, but did the person call now to find, I mean,
Well,
was it
this,
the town was out or the commission was out? Was an enforcement order issued?
I think I would have to go and see what was, she said the town did an enforcement and prevented the construction of a shed, but they never took it down, that type of thing.
Right, but that
So-
wouldn't be, I think that was a building department issue.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would have to go and yeah, get the
I don't think
address and
that's not something we can deal with.
no. She was saying it was a wetlands issue that she had been for years sending stuff to the commission. I just haven't seen it.
Right,
But I
I have
think
to- we have to
need an
investigate.
agenda discussion, yeah, and that'll give us time to do
Let's-
some more research.
Okay, I hear you, Judy. I think we need to think about what kind of teeth we want in our regulation.
Mhm.
Is an enforcement order sufficient?
What about an enforcement order followed by fine?
Well, that's an alternative, yes.
but I think it would have to be very drastic to rise to the level of fines. That doesn't even happen under the act. I mean, they want things to be handled before it has to be escalated to that level, unless it's some like giant egregious issue.
And I don't disagree with that.
Mm.
But I think ultimately there need to be some teeth.
Right, but I think maybe a better way to look at it is there needs to be more robust education about wetlands.
It's
Because
really
then,
tough
then the
because
commission will be looked at as punitive when it comes to permitting.
Right, and the people who are most able to ignore the fines are the ones like the really big projects who may not care about a fine
Yeah, that's true.
of a few $1,000s.
That's right.
But I
It's like
can't imagine a
tacit
case
permission.
where the
When
commission would have issued
when
fines.
a tear down costs $1 million, a few $1,000s of fines is not going to matter.
But I think issuance of fines would be few and far between, and I think
Absolutely.
the damage you could do by having that threat would be enough to deter people from voting for it.
Hmm.
Because you don't know what's going to happen if the commission turns over. That it could be, issuing constantly. You can't, there's no way to control that because you don't know who will be on the commission.
Well, I think the point of a fine is to get someone's attention quickly and have them come before the Concom, not just to and the fines are usually per day.
Right, but if you're issuing an enforcement order, then that's the first thing is that they come into the commission. So I can't imagine a case that's been before the commission that would have risen to the level of a fine.
I still think we need to authorize the ability to impose fines, even if we don't have them in the regulations as yet.
But then it still goes back to you're beholden to whoever is on the commission. I mean, there could be people that would enjoy issuing fines for everything. That's the risk you take in presenting it in a bylaw now.
And I think if you don't specify the fines in a way that's even scarier.
I honestly don't see the need for fines. You're not using enforcement orders very rarely. So I don't know when it would necessitate
Okay,
a fine.
I'll do some looking.
Can we just regroup ahead of Friday, just quickly decide if we agree on the buffers for these resource areas?
All right, let's move through that quickly.
Really quick. Okay, and we'll let you go.
I've run out of
200
evening,
feet,
folks.
river, 200, no change.
No,
Second bullet, 25 feet.
For what, isolated?
This
Or
is any regular wetland. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
100-foot buffer, but
Isolated.
100-foot buffer and a 25
25
foot
foot, no disturb. Isolated wetland. I guess is that a 25-foot no disturb?
I would say 25-foot buffer and we can figure out the no disturb.
Okay,
Maybe 25 foot.
I would say 25 and 25.
Yeah, that's, I don't know.
when you
On
say
those.
25 and 20, oh, on intermittent, okay.
For isolated
Um,
wetlands, the buffer and the no disturb are the same.
Yes. Isolated wetlands, you're saying the buffer and the no disturb are the same?
That's what I'm suggesting. It's only 25 in
Mhm.
both cases.
And then it's also
Vernal pool habitat
subject,
is 100 feet out from the staked boundary of the pool itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then-
Stream setbacks are what they are under the WPA.
I think we have to,
It's- Yeah, no, I mean, it's really just the bank and even there, it's the lower bank.
Right.
So I would say something like maybe 25-foot buffer and maybe 10-foot setback.
From which, Jennifer?
Intermittent
in
stream.
streams,
Oh, intermittent streams. Okay.
okay.
25-foot buffer. What's a setback, Jennifer? How are you
10-foot
distinguishing them?
You don't cut down the trees within 10 feet of the bank. But,
Okay. And the 25-foot buffer is, how does that differ?
It's kind of storage. They do meander a lot.
yeah.
You could
Just for
protect,
review purposes,
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. This is I guess we'd have to, this is. if we get-
2510 is what I think we just discussed.
Mhm.
That's what I threw out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good. Paul, thank you so much for your time and your away time with company.
Sorry, I do need to go try to be a good guest for.
Social, yeah.
Mm,
All right,
So do you want me to, I'll send these out
yeah.
to everyone? Okay. Thanks for
Well,
everyone's help.
Friday, we're on at 1 with Bill,
It's 12 o'clock, 1
Noon.
hour,
and he
noon.
wants us to be there in person.
Yeah,
okay.
Is
I
that
don't
gonna
know if I
work
can
for
do
you
that.
guys?
I can
I
make
don't
it, but it's kind of a hassle.
Yeah, I realize that. I don't quite understand why we need to do it in person. Did he say anything about that to you, Ethan, or Judy?
I think that was our idea at first, to be in person. That way we could just sit down and it'll just be easier to get stuff done.
Okay,
Except you can't see a screen. That's the only. I mean, you can have a conversation, but it's hard to see like,
No, Ethan figured that out.
oh, he did?
looked at
Okay.
it,
Yeah, you can, in that public meeting space, you can share your screen and everything.
where are we meeting? Where would we meet?
It's the public safety building.
Where's that?
The police station.
Oh, it's down.
Police station that hangs over the parking lot, the giant parking lot. Behind what used to be the CVS.
Right.
Wait. Oh, behind the old CVS.
The one that used to be the CVS that's now a dollar store or something.
Oh, okay. Okay. I could do it once in person.
I really can't do that.
Okay. Can
So
we
I think
do
we're gonna have to do
mixed?
it on a Zoom, with a hybrid at best.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to do it on Zoom anyways. for the
Okay, so
public meeting.
Jennifer could dial in.
Yep.
Okay. See how my day goes. All right. Thank you guys. Okay,
All
so
right.
see
Good
everyone
night, all.
12
Yep.
Friday. Thank you. Thanks, Ethan, for being available. Thank
Yep.
you, Judy. Bye.
Bye.